Hi, I'm Nathan Butt, Screencast-O-Matic for Psychology Assignment 2. Arousal. Definition of arousal. Motivation is related to the intensity and direction of behaviour. That is the level of arousal and the way in which we have effect our motivation and hence performance. There are many types of arousal. There's 3 types. There's silent, crowd and type of skill. An example of silent arousal would be a snooker player, because when playing snooker throughout the whole game it is silent until the player plays a really good shot. But with the silence of the crowd it can add pressure on the player for maybe winning the game or the match. An example of crowd arousal being when taking a penalty, the crowd are really loud and players tend to use that vibe from the crowd and use it as determination to score that penalty. But however, some players can't deal with the pressure of the crowd and get too aroused and will mess up the penalty through nerves and arousal of the crowd. Hull's drive theory. This demonstrates a linear relationship between performance and arousal. This means at low levels of arousal, performance is low and performance increases in line with an increase in arousal. This is shown in the graph. As you see in the graph, if you've got low levels of performance, it tends to say that you'll have low arousal, but has the better or higher performances, the correlation of the arousal will go up with it. Inverted U hypothesis. With Hull's drive theory, it shows a positive correlation and performance on arousal. This theory would be for sports that require a massive arousal, such as weightlifting. So if you're not really that aroused for the weightlifting or rugby or football, then your performance will be poor. Hence, if you are edging on medium to high, then your performance will be pretty good. Inverted U hypothesis. This states that arousal improves performance to an optimal level, but when you pass this point, your performance will begin to decrease. When drawn on a graph, this appears as an upside down U shape. Through rules which surround this theory, activity, some points are better performed at low arousal, mainly those which require small precision movements and control, example shooting. Skill level, beginners to a sport require all of their attention to be focused on the task in hand and so do not cope as well with over arousal. Personality, extroverts perform better in high pressure, high arousal situations. Introverts tend to do better in a state of low arousal. This is thought to be connected to part of the brain called the RAS, or reticular activating system, which controls levels of arousal. As you can see, I've made my own graph to show this. With the low levels of performance and arousal, like darts, is you don't really need that much high of a performance and arousal levels through playing darts, because you need to have low levels of arousal to concentrate on the game and have a steady hand and keep the nerves and performance that down. With football, you tend to have higher levels of arousal than darts because of it being a higher, more intense game, so you need to be more aroused to beat your opponents and throw out and have a good performance, and it will then driftly fade off. But with weightlifting, you need to have high levels of performance and arousal for you to be psyched up and lift the heavy weights for a quick amount of time, so then literally the arousal and performance level will go up, slope up and then straight down. Catastrophe theory. With the catastrophe theory, there is a level of arousal and level of performance again, but as you can see on the graph, it says that the obviously lower performance and lower level of arousal, it tends to rise, and then as you hit your optimum, you tend to peak off a little. But with as you see, I've put an A, B, C, and D. These are the 4 points of the catastrophe theory. Point A is where your arousal and anxiety are both high, and this causes the performer to choke. So if you say in basketball, you've got a penalty and you're taking the shot, the player's arousal and anxiety levels are so high that when performing the shot he will choke, so he won't make the shot when people such as fans and other teammates will think he will. Point B is where the performer will, after he's choked, he will carry on playing the game, but it's where the performer will then either continue to have his high anxiety and arousal levels in their performance, so then they will still continue to mess things up. Point C is where arousal causes the performer's performance to decrease. So C links with B because then they'll keep messing shots up, passes, free throws, everything like that. And point D is the point where the performer gets to grip with their self and sorts out their performance, and the anxiety and arousal levels go back to normal, and then they will, maybe in the same game or in another game, they will go back to a normal level, and then as they play again they will rise back up to optimum level. Stress. Definition of stress. Stress is the process whereby an individual perceives a threat and responds with a series of psychological and physiological changes. There are there's types of stress such as eustress. Eustress is a good form of stress. It gives you a feeling of fulfillment when doing something good within your sport, and it helps increase the intrinsic motivation in you. Distress is a bad form of stress. This can give you extreme forms of anxiety and nerves and worry. So if you are an intrinsic person doing a team sport or something like that, and you're gonna have very high levels of anxiety and nerves and worry because you don't want to mess up in front of for your teammates and everything else, and not only for them but for yourself. There are many types of stress. There's external stress. External stress is where things in your surroundings and our environment, such as opponents, the crowd, the weather, and major life really. So with external, if you have, say, the environment can be stressful. Say if you're playing football and you've got a really muddy pitch and it's wet and boggy, you can't make a pass, you can't tend to kick the ball right, so you'll have to adapt your game to the environment, but that can also make players and performers very, very stressed. There's also internal. These things such as memories and experiences such as current injuries and past injuries. So if you have broken your leg or your ankle, you will then tend to think about that time where you did break your ankle, and then that can be stressful because then you won't tackle as hard as what you used to because of the injury that you've pastly had. It can be stressful because you know that you can still make the tackle and you know you can do it, but the stress levels are being so high, and then you will then take it out on yourself, and then you'll just be very, very angry. Personal factors. Personal factors include friends, family, partners. So if you have friends watching you, they can be like saying that can be very stressful, such as myself. I have my mates, they tend to come watch our local games sometimes, and with them shouting on the sidelines and everything, it's really stressful because you're trying to concentrate on the game, but they're there trying to talk to you, and it's just like, I can't talk, I'm trying to play the game. So that can be very, very stressful. The sport can include relationships with the teammates and coaches and managers. An example of that can be disagreements. So if you have a disagreement with a teammate, such as your captain, then that can be stressful, and then you may not talk or for a few games or something like that. So then when playing the game, you'll have no communication in the game, they'll have no communication outside of the game. So then when playing within the game, it can cause disruption within the team and the performance as well, because then when, say, if you have the ball in football, your teammate, like says the captain, you've had a disagreement with, can be in space and you won't pass to him, you'll pass to someone else, which may not be the best option to do, and same vice versa. Anxiety is a product of stress. This is a result of an individual and the environment, emotional response to demands placed upon the individual by the environment. There is trait, which is a tendency to feel threatened even in situations that are not really threatened, and then respond to this with the high levels of state anxiety. So if you're not really in a situation that you're considered normally in, you will respond to something that's like not you. So you will like snap out or start a fight or something in football that's not really you, and because you're anxiety and you're so pressured and anxious and everything, you will just do something that's not you. Somatic. With somatic anxiety, you have an increase in heart rate, increase in breathing rate, and you start sweating, and you also have muscle tension. It is all about how the athlete views the physiological changes. They could be no different than normal, but the athlete's perception makes them worse. So with somatic, really, you have, when you're anxious about something, you tend to, you will notice that obviously people tend to start breathing really heavily. They go red, their hands, armpits, everything like that starts to sweat, and they can't control it. So once they know that this occurrence is happening, they can they can control it by themselves by, when their breathing rate increases, by taking deep breaths, controlling their heart rate and thinking, no, everything's going to be fine, I'm not anxious as what I am, and they can sort that out. With behavioural, there's a pattern of behavioural of anxiety when we are experiencing stress. There are 3 stages to behavioural stress. The first one is cognitive. Cognitive is where it is in your head. Examples of this would be feeling weak and having images in your head of feeling weak. So with cognitive, if you have a image in your head where you're thinking of the game, and such as boxing, and you have dreams are obviously in your head, and nightmares and that, they obviously will, if they're worried about the fight, they'll have dreams and that, and of losing and feeling weak and in the fight and losing every round. So with that, it's all in your head, and you've got to think with the physiological things that no, it's not going to happen, it was just a dream, it's not going to happen, and you will win. The second one is somatic. This is to do with your body, such as when people are feeling stressed or even pressured, they will start to sweat and go red from the heart rate increasing. So it's the same as the anxiety above, muscle tension, so they will start to sweat, and they just need to learn how to control it, really. The third one is behavioural, so it's what your body does, such as when people are nervous, such as going for interviews, a big job interview, they tend to fidget, blink a lot, look at other things, bounce their foot up and down,